risk is not just doom and gloom. Risk is
Yeah.
either do or don't, do or die, take it or leave it. And it's
Yeah.
not that black and white. You have to make sure that you, of course, mitigate the downside risk, but there's also an opportunity to maximize on the upside risk.
Welcome to my GRC POV. Before we begin, please note that all views, opinions, and commentary expressed by my guest and me are strictly our own personal perspectives. They do not represent or reflect the official positions of any employers, organizations, or affiliations we may have. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute professional advice. Always consult with qualified professionals for your specific GRC needs. Now let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my GRC POV. My name is Monica Reagor. I'm your host, and this is where we have real conversation about governance, risk, and compliance. So there's no filters, no fluff. We don't just talk about theory and framework. We talk about what GRC looks like when it's actually in motion in organizations and in our careers where people are actually doing the work. Now, today's episode is absolutely special because we are in season 2. And this season, we're turning it up. Same community, same commitment, keeping it real, but more intentional, more depth, more of the conversations that actually move the needle. We're bringing to you voices, the perspective, the experiences that challenge how we think about GRC and how you show up. Before I get started and introduce my guests, listen, make sure you do me a favor. If you have not already, please subscribe and follow. You can find my GRC POV on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and all of your favorite streaming platforms. And if you want to be part of the community, follow us on LinkedIn, Substack, Instagram, Threads, Blue Skies, all of those platforms as well. Or just follow me on mygrcpov.com so we can stay connected, because if this show gives any value to you, then make sure you leave a review, because it helps more people to find what we're doing and the information that we're trying to get out there. Now, today, my guest brings over 20 years of progressive risk management and insurance experience. She is a nationally sought after coach and thought leader whose work lives in the intersection of business savvy and bold and intentional living. She's a life coach, a career coach, a consultant, a speaker, and the founder and CEO of Intelligent Intentions LLC. She is on the ground right now helping Black and Brown students understand that GRC is a career path, not just a concept, that there is real opportunity waiting for them in this space. So let's welcome to my GRC POV community, none other than Lawanda Elle Michell Hall. Elle, welcome to my GRC POV. So glad to have you here
Thank
finally.
you. Thank you for having me. Yes, it's a
Yeah,
pleasure.
absolutely. It's been a minute since you and I have talked. I know that we are constantly serving in varying spaces together. We met in an organization, and you've asked me to come on to help mentor some of potential students in risk management. So how are things going? What are you up to? What drew you to this space?
Wow. Well, what drew me to risk management and insurance was a lesson in school. I was in high school taking an AP math class, and math was my favorite subject. My mother swore I was going to be an accountant like her, and that, there were no more questions to be asked. Well, I took an accounting class early in high school and didn't find it to be very interesting. And so I kept looking, what can I do with math as a career? And about 10 or 11th grade, I was taking this AP math class, and we talked about statistical significance and regression analysis and all the things. And what I learned was a different application of math to the real world. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I talked to my teacher and said, hey, what job is this? Who does this every day? Like, I really want to be a part of this. And this was pre-Google, so I'm dating myself. And so the teacher said, well, let me do some research and get some information for you. I'll get back to you. A couple of weeks later, he came back. His name was Gregory Wright. I still follow him on LinkedIn now. So shout out to Gregory Wright.
Shout
So
out.
Mr. Wright came back with a big envelope, and the envelope was full of brochures and pamphlets about actuary science, about Georgia State University. And I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. My mother attended Georgia State University, and I had attended some summer programs there as well as a student in elementary, middle, and high school. So I was very familiar with it and learned that it was one of the top school programs for actuary science and risk management and insurance. And so after reading through all of that, I was hooked. I was sold. I was like, yes, this is what I'm going to do, for the rest of my life. So I attended Georgia State, initially majored in actuary science. And then after doing like an internship for a day, I understood the actuary has amazing work. But then, and this was, like 30 years ago, the environment wasn't conducive to my personality. And I thought, okay, I need to figure this out. So I went to my counselor and said, okay, I love the work. I love the numbers. I would, love to do this work every day, all day. But the environment is not quite right for me. And so the counselor said, well, you're already satisfied, your core for risk management. You could be a risk manager. And the fact that you understand actuary, you will be a better risk manager because you hire actuaries to do work for you in various corporations. So once I understood how that all tied together and that risk management gave me a little bit more people interaction combined with also the numbers and the analytics, then I pivoted and I've been here ever since. So I'm one of the few people in the risk management space that did this on purpose and intentionally went for a career in risk management and insurance. And 32 years later, I still absolutely love the discipline and appreciate all the ways that I get to apply it, not just in a corporate setting or for my fractional risk management clients, but also as a coach. It stands on the foundation of risk management applied to people, and what I do in the spaces of schools and universities to help the next generation understand the possibilities in this industry. So a big part of what I'm doing now, in addition to coaching and in addition to being a fractional risk manager for small and middle market companies, I am working through the Spencer Education Foundation, helping to stand up and or expand risk management programs that serve Black and Brown students. And that's so important because I had never heard of risk management ever.
Right.
And I grew up in the household with a corporate professional, with, folks who were in corporate and educated. I had never heard of it, right? Um, and my teacher told me about it. Gregory Wright is a white man, and he told me all about it. And even when I talked to other Black or brown adults about it, they didn't know anything about it. So
Yeah.
clearly, there's a blind spot in this discipline, a blind spot of understanding and a blind spot of opportunity. So I wanted to make sure that students understood that risk management, compliance, governance is on their menu of options for looking for career paths.
Yeah.
So I love working with Spencer Education Foundation, and more specifically, some of the HBCUs that I've been able to go speak with, talk to the students, get them some understanding around what risk management and insurance is, and governance and compliance, and how they can set up.
Yeah.
And so happy to say that Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, is the first, and at this point, I think the only HBCU with a risk management and insurance major. Now, there
Wow.
are other schools that have a concentration, schools that have courses available as a foundational understanding of risk management and business. But Southern University in Baton Rouge is the only HBCU with a program where you can go and major in risk management and insurance.
Yeah, so that's so amazing. You've said it, just given us a lot to think about. You talked about actuary science, which is the first time I've ever heard of it. So we're going to have to circle back at some point and talk about what is actuary science. But I do want to just type into what you said towards the end of your introduction is that um, Southern University, very much a HBCU college that has made history over and over again. Why do you think Southern University specifically has said, okay, risk management is a program that it creates opportunity, is an opportunity that we should create a major around? And then more specifically, how does it help other HBCUs or our next gen talent really be a part of the mission of your mission of just creating an opportunity and using GRC risk management as a pathway, so, in addition to some of the other pathways that are more traditional.
So at Southern University, the dean of the business school, Dr. Andrews, as well as the chancellor, Jean Pierre, have worked together to make sure that the students have opportunities to meet them when they finish school. And they have their finger on the pulse of the industries that are lucrative, but are also um, in need of talent and looking for talent. And the insurance industry specifically has a ton of boomers that are retiring and exiting. And so you're losing a lot of institutional knowledge, you're losing a lot of intellectual capital. And the children of these people that are leaving aren't wanting to go into insurance, or they're looking at other avenues, as far as technology and things like that goes. Because you may not know, but insurance, there's a lot of connectivity and family connections in insurance. Your grandfather, your
Mm,
father, and all the generations will work in the industry, and so
right.
that's not happening as much as it historically has. And the schools that have risk management programs are great, but the need is getting greater because more corporations are understanding risk management. More corporations are understanding the need for compliance and governance and quantitative analytics, which is akin to what actuaries do. And so the talent is getting diluted, and the need, as the need increases. And so at Southern University, um, in partnership with the Alliance Insurance Foundation, they came together and stood up the risk management and insurance program to help students access these opportunities globally. And Alliant Insurance Foundation has been very thoughtful around how they created this program in partnership with Southern University. Because in addition to having the program, there are scholarship opportunities available, there are internship opportunities available, there's mentorship opportunities available,
Yeah.
and all of these layers matter, particularly for students who are first generation graduates of college and or first generation into the world of risk management and insurance, because there is a culture
Mm,
tied to any discipline. There's a subculture to understand. And so not only are students going to learn the vocabulary lesson and all of, the things that they need to know about risk management and insurance and operations and things of that nature, but they're also going to get mentorship and get people to help them understand the subculture so that they can navigate in a way that is um, not only lucrative to them financially, but also experientially.
yeah. So let me ask you just dive into that a little bit deeper. One of the things that you and I know in government risk and compliance is that one is a niche. Like for the most part, and people, my story, most people do, is that I I just knew I was going to be programming for the rest of my life. That was the thing. Computers. Now, again, we're talking like the late '90s, where Microsoft system engineering was a big deal, et cetera.
Right.
And then I just happened to stumble upon compliance, and even in compliance roles, at that time in early 2000, it was more associated with you had to be a lawyer, you had to be a legal professional, and now we are now in 2026, and that has shifted dramatically, especially with the pandemic and people with the generation that is coming with these skill sets that saying, yes, I can prove, and I don't need a law degree to do what you're doing. I just need to be able to understand the language in which I have to attest to, right? And so that's has been the overall sense of compliance or governance, but then there's risk management, and I don't know if everybody really understands one, the importance of risk management or what risk management is. So I'm going to ask you as the senior here, is that what is risk management, and why do you believe that it is critical to organizations as a whole? Like I can tell you what risk management means in technology, but just the overall concept of what risk management is and why it really needs to start to develop a pipeline, a pathway in the education uh, space.
So that's a good question, Monica. So before I answer that, though, I want to go back to what you said about governance, risk, and compliance being a niche. The discipline is absolutely a niche. However, there's no niche as far as the industries go.
Yeah,
So I
makes sense.
want people to understand that it touches every industry in the world. Okay, every industry has some kind of regulation, governance,
Hmm.
compliance that they have to adhere to. Every industry, every business endeavor has risk. Just about every industry in the world, has to have insurance. And so, even though the discipline, yes, is a niche, it can touch any company and any interest. And so I tell students a lot of times, whatever you're interested in naturally, you can go into that industry and manage the risk of that thing and put yourself in a position to, have a good living and have an interesting career to engage thoughtfully and, not feel like work is a burden, to you. Right, or it's like boring, right? You just get excited. Like I met a student who was interested in aviation. He was like all in about aviation. And I was like, great. So here's what you need to do. Understand, like there's so much risk in the world of aviation. There's a whole niche in the insurance industry. There's a whole niche for claims because when an airplane goes down, there's a very specific information that you need to know and understand and how to make sure you avoid that, prevent it, but also if it happens, how to manage that
Sure.
situation. And so he got internships with like I think Lockheed Martin, and he
Nice.
was like so excited about understanding how to build the planes, how they work, like all the parts of it. And he is, I think, his first year out, he's having the time of his life, just understanding how that works. So I
Yeah.
want people to understand, yes, niche discipline, but not niche industry, so you can find the intersection of the industry and the discipline just about anywhere in the world.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that. And I've said it several times. My introduction to compliance was through transit, right? Transportation, and more specifically FTA. Of course, my working background has always been in technology. And so I am a huge advocate to your point, which I think is just perfectly said, is that it complies to every single industry worldwide. I mean, I went to a conference last year in Austin, Texas. I did, and it was a Women in Compliance conference hosted by Compliance Week. And there was a lady there that is in repossessions, and she's the compliance manager. And I said, wait, repossessions has compliance regulations? Get out
Mhm.
of here. So, which it falls specifically into risk management, right? Because there is requirements around insurance. Like if you damage a vehicle while it's being repossessed, where is the line of liability? Is it on the tow truck or whatever the repossession is, or is it on the owner? Like, where's that divided line? And she was there to really understand the intersections between her industries and the overarching principles and discipline of compliance and risk management. So I'm glad you highlighted that point. And so you talked about your student who is in aviation, totally dope field. Keep going. Jump into aerospace if you get the chance.
For sure.
Because that is a niche. Like there's
Right,
a
and it's a
huge
lot of
niche.
fun if you were
Yeah.
already interested in it, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's the cool thing. So then I'll answer a question about what is risk management. So that's a loaded question because if you go online and Google risk management, you'll get like so many different answers. If you look on LinkedIn and look at risk management jobs, you'll get like so many different um, job descriptions that have the risk management title attached to it. And so I'll just give you a broad answer to this global audience. For me, my understanding of risk management overall is managing the momentum of the moment. And that sounds simplified, but I think everybody who has a risk management title is doing just that. They're managing the momentum of the moment because in that moment, what are we doing or what are we not doing, and how is that going to impact the future? Right? How is that going to project out into the future? So I told you that I got into this industry because we were doing regression analysis, statistical significance, and a lot of that was projecting, taking a whole bunch of data and a whole bunch of information and trying to determine how behaviors today are going to affect or impact the future state, right? And so any risk management discipline is doing that in a variety of ways, whether it's technology or property or casualty or products, liability. You're trying to understand what we have today, how we're operating today, how we're, manufacturing today, how we're doing these things today. What is the impact going forward? And so it's oversimplified intentionally, but I also want people to understand that risk is not just doom and gloom. People think, oh my gosh, risk is either do or don't, do or die. Oh my gosh, take it or leave it. And it's
Yeah.
not that black and white. You have to make sure that you, of course, mitigate the downside risk, but there's also an opportunity to maximize on the
Yeah.
upside risk, right? Because there are some, good opportunities to come out of managing risk as well. And so risk managers are responsible for looking at the data and understanding what's probable and managing and navigating that probability using a variety of risk tools to ensure that the risk strategy is aligned with the organization's business objectives and with the organization's risk appetite. And so every risk manager, and I would love, people to comment if, they agree or disagree with this blanket definition of managing the momentum of the moment is effectively what all risk managers are doing.
Yeah, so we're going to definitely add that to our poll. So you guys, when the episodes drop, make sure that you respond in the poll attached to the show notes, because I want to know if you agree with that as well. And thank you for giving us that definition, because at the end of the day, oftentimes we have conversations around what is governance, what is compliance. That's usually the top two, because they have to do with board, right? Board oversight. Then you have, okay, the board wants to know, are we compliant? They never really, and then they ask are the risks. They never really say what are the risks. They are we compliant. And usually sometimes risk is an afterthought along with auditing, right? Like they are always the end of the line kind of thing in our approach. But you brought up something really important about people understanding that it's a pathway, is an opportunity, and it is giving people the space to manage a moment and be able to project and forecast. That's why, and anyone who's in data analytics who's like, I want to pivot somewhere, try risk management, because we need
Absolutely.
we need someone to be able to run those numbers to give us
Mhm.
forecasting and projections and to understand the analysis that will impact the business or to make solid decisions. So to my question to you, for those who are exiting out of the field, what do organizations have to do differently to actually attract new generations into the GRC role, or specifically the risk management role?
Wow, we could talk all day about that.
We only have a few minutes, but let's start there,
Right.
because I think we're going to have to
Um,
bring you back.
so let's talk about what organizations are doing well. Let's
Relevant.
start
Good.
there. So I think that there are some organizations that are understanding the deficiency and meeting the moment by donating money to different schools to make sure that the next generation is properly prepared and that their education is in alignment with what the industry needs. So making sure that there's data analytics, baked into risk management programs in a thoughtful way to make sure that quantitative analytics and things of that nature are baked in, because, we touch on all those things in the world of risk management and insurance. So I think they're doing that well. As you know, like I said, Southern University is supported by the Alliant Insurance Foundation. There's some other organizations that are giving lots of money to different organizations. My alma mater, Georgia State University, recently changed the name of the risk management department to align with major gifts received from the Greenberg family. And that's happening quite a bit as well. So I think, they are doing some things to address some of the deficiencies and some of the challenges. What I think they could do better is to make sure that in addition to education, that students coming into the industry have coaching, because coaching is going to help them, is going to elevate them, and it's going to amplify what they've learned in school to help them understand the culture, the subculture, how to navigate this space, where are the opportunities, how to align who they are and what they're naturally interested in with where they should sit in the space of risk management, governance, compliance. And so I think that's important. And there's a ton of research out there that's available to indicate that coaching really helps students and professionals to it accelerates their maturity, professionally, and it helps them to, access the courage and confidence required to move in a way that is beneficial not only to them as a career path, but also beneficial to the company, because companies need leaders that are courageous and bold, and they don't need just, workers. They need people who are going to stand up and stand out and articulate themselves and ask the difficult questions and be able to move things forward. And, coming straight out of college, you kind of just don't have that. But with the mass exodus of all of the talent that's leaving, you're going to need leaders to ramp up quicker than in years past. And so I think that having some internal coaching for young professionals and making sure that, they are meeting the moment and growing up into their careers a little bit quicker than generations in the past have had to, would absolutely be beneficial.
Yeah, yeah. I think that is perfectly said, right? Is because at the end of the day, it's again, let's go back to the points. One, it touches all industries. Two, there is a mass exodus coming up that we're now seeing in every facet of work
Yes,
life, right? It all the way down to healthcare, to your manufacturing, energy, and even politics. We're
right.
seeing a lot of people who have been in their positions and their roles for over several decades,
Hmm.
and they're aging out. Sometimes they are catching the clue to go ahead and retire. Some people are leaving this earth in their role, right? There's a huge exit, and so we have to in this space remember that knowledge is important, and also knowledge gives us history. History teaches us what to do and what not to do, but it also helps us innovate, right? Because now we have a foundation, we understand what worked. Now how do we make it better? And that's where creativity comes in. And there's innovation in risk management. Risk
Yes.
management can be a driver for revenue. Risk management can be a driver for new designs. If we see a risk, how do we mitigate it? But then out of that, developing that mitigation, maybe there's a way to redesign it, which will in turn increase innovation and initiatives that could shape or redirect the organization. So I want to talk about that in more depth, if you don't mind. So for one of the things you said earlier in our conversation is about culture and subcultures. And so I want to talk about what does navigating the culture and subculture of GRC risk management more specifically actually look like in real time and real practice?
Well, some of it is, corporate culture, layered on top of the subculture of risk management and insurance. Um, Governance and compliance. It's very relationship driven, very relationship driven. And that's one thing I did not understand coming out of school. I thought, oh, I went to one of the top schools. I have amazing mentors. I did a great internship at the Southern utility company. Surely when my resume drops out there, everybody's going to want me just because, I have all these credentials and I've checked all these boxes.
Yeah.
And I did have, great experience with, getting jobs and job offers. Um, and I am a bit of a recovering job snob. I've had some great jobs with some great companies. Um, but I didn't understand the importance of relationships. I did not understand the importance of connecting. Now, I was a part of professional organizations, and I was there and I was involved, and I knew people. I knew people and I knew of people, and they knew me. But the relationships didn't always go very deep.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's very important. And what I've developed a professional development academy for risk management and insurance students. And in that professional development academy is my love letter to the next generation, teaching them the things that I've observed that work, the things that I wish I knew better or knew before I went in, at their
Yeah.
age, and things that, just from research and understanding work. And so it talks to them about, I teach them socio emotional dexterity to understand how to go in and how to navigate certain things. And some things need to be changed, absolutely, but you can't change things that you don't first understand. So
Yeah.
teaching them, how to understand how things are and how they maybe came to be what they are, and then they can take on any change agency that they um, intend to. So you have three cultures working. You have corporate culture, whatever industry culture that you may be in, and then the risk management and insurance, governance and compliance culture, which is like, kind of the cousin to legal and safety. Like safety, legal, and risk are like, all cousins,
Yep.
working closely together. And so as you're navigating all of those cultures and crossing over, you have to really manage and navigate those relationships well, and the information that flows, in and out. And there's some manipulation that happens as well, because you have brokers making millions and millions and millions of dollars on deals, and who have every intention of keeping their multi-million dollar clients. And so sometimes, how those relationships work um, aren't don't always feel good,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you have to really, exercise prudence and understand, why you're there, what's at stake, and keep your mind and your focus on ultimately the business objectives. And so
Yeah.
sometimes it can feel like a fight or a bit of a battle, like you're sparring with people who you think are who people who are on your team or who are part of your team. And that's honestly just a part of how it works.
Yeah.
With negotiating and battling and going back and forth, you give a little, they give a little, and everything's, in the space of negotiation. And so if you're not used to understanding, okay, we're going to take it to the mat, we're going to negotiate, we're going to do what we got to do. And when we get out of the ring, we're going to have drinks, and we're going to be friends again, and we're going to hang out.
Right.
Sometimes that, if you don't have that social emotional dexterity, you can hold grudges, or you can, really compromise relationships in a way that doesn't serve you in a big picture. So again, every moment you have to understand how that has impact in the future. So it can get a little complicated and a little interesting, but it's a dance that I have enjoyed for the most part, for the last 30 plus years. And I think with understanding and coaching and proper preparation, that it is worth the wear.
Yeah,
Definitely
yeah,
worth the wear.
absolutely. Yeah. And I think, and even more so, even the conversations I've had with previous guests, we've all talked about from technical time or spaces to building community to leadership. It all comes down to your ability to communicate well and to make that connection and understanding the culture that in the space that you're in. And it becomes exhausting because for myself in technology, not only do I have to speak technical language to my engineers and my designers and my programmers, and then I have to flip the script and code switch, if you will, to speak business language to all my executives and senior management who don't understand my field at all. And then I may have to code switch again to talk to the sales team, or to code switch again to talk to the legal team. And again, we're cousins, so that conversation is not that difficult.
Right,
But you have other areas that you work with, depending upon specifically where you sit. And so if it's utility, I have a young lady in my work group for the organization that you and I serve in, and she works in the energy, and she says she finds it very interesting that people don't take into account when they move from one residence to another. They are late to like cancel their service or to ensure their names are removed from that particular meter box, because people are running up meters, new people run in, move in really quickly, and your name is still, you're still accountable for that time and period until they take ownership of that meter box, right? And that is data that you and I don't consider. We just, we're everyday people. We move out one place and we
right,
transfer that information over, but not really considering that how quickly is that being done? Is it done in a proper way? Because there is a liability, like from the time that you end your service to the time that you activate your service or new service in
right,
another location. And so that's a risk. And she says that for a data privacy perspective, it's a big risk because then the company becomes liable for a service not paid for if used,
right,
right? And so you bring up some really great key points and really talking about culture, because one, we have the ability we have to navigate the culture well and build relationships. I talk about it all the time. People ask me, well, how did you become this expert in the field? And a lot of it is just one, sharing my ideas. LinkedIn has helped, brand development has helped, personal branding, because we're way past the days where you just go in and fill out a resume. And to your
Right, right,
point, I love the fact that you said that you're recovering, a job snob in a way, because you're like, I've had some really great jobs, but back then you just walked in with your resume and people, you know, said whatever you had on your resume made you an excellent employee. And over time, people have seen, yeah, there's a ton of people that have a ton of degrees, but can they really execute under pressure in the field to drive results? And that's what people are
right,
looking
right,
for, right? And risk management, I think, in my opinion, tends to be a sharper edge to that, our weapon of choice, if you will, because they really are the tip of that sword to really drive initiatives and results, because they are the ones that can see the risk in it, right? We talk to compliance, of course. Compliance is like, here's the regulations, this is what we got to do. Risk, it says, okay, this is the gray area, where we are 20% is going to impact us, 30% we're compliant. Here's another 20%, whatever that number is, that we are actually is at risk or in threat of, right? So how do we navigate that? And so that's why we work in concert with one another in this GRC culture, because each of us has something to give. And so driving that
right.
point, I really love the fact that you brought that up, because it's such a high priority in this space. So I want to ask you this, because everybody's asking this question, and I've had the privilege of, you've asked me to come on board to support you in some of your initiatives around educating students and
Mhm.
in colleges and Mercer University more specifically. And I know you've done or doing some work with Dominican University as well. So what for the students, for parents, people who are transitioning in their career now, because we have so many people of color who
Mhm.
are displaced, and they're trying to figure out what's their next. So for anyone that's listening right now, where is the financial stability in risk management, if you will, and how do they find
That's a very good question.
it?
Well, the schools are well supported. So I would say look at schools and institutions that have risk management and insurance programs. And there's a list, and I can make sure you have the link through IRMI, IRMI. Um, they have a list of all the schools. There are about 50 schools right now in the US that have risk management and insurance programs. Oftentimes, when people go to universities, they focus all of their financial queries to the financial aid department. And that's a good start. However, understand that insurance companies and people that are looking to benefit from educated risk management, insurance, and governance and compliance professionals aren't going to the financial aid department saying, "Hey, here's some money. Here, what you need to do." They're making relationships with the departments, the risk management departments, the governance and compliance, the departments that teach this information. So I would say, in addition to going to financial aid, also talk to the directors of the departments, because they will have more information and more understanding around scholarships specifically aligned with that discipline. So on the Army website, when they have the list of all the schools, they list the directors and the head of the departments, and that's where you will find more information. Also, my favorite resource for finding funding for schools and for students is Spencer Education Foundation. They do an amazing job of making sure that they're disseminating funds in a way that is thoughtful and balanced and fair, and they manage the process very, very, very well. And so Spencer receives money from a variety of sources, including companies that could benefit from insurance and risk educated people. And they have scholarships, they have opportunities for schools to have curriculum development, they have opportunities for schools to have other support and programming to expose students to risk management and insurance and governance and compliance um, disciplines. And so their website is also an amazing resource. Oh, and one more, I'm sorry, one more resource. I would say professional organizations. People forget, how much of a bridge professional organizations play in any industry. And if you just look them up, there's a whole publication of professional organizations that there are tens of thousands of professional organizations. So whatever you do, whatever you want to do, I promise you, there's a professional organization aligned with it. In the insurance and management insurance industry alone, there are thousands, right?
Wow.
And so there are scholarships also available through professional organizations. The largest in our industry is RIMS, Risk Insurance Management Society, and they have a big conference every year. They have scholarships available. They have local chapters that have scholarships available, and their money's there as well for people who are looking to support their formal education as far as a 4-year degree or master's education, but also professional designations. There's money to support you taking the tests and taking the courses to receive licenses and professional designations. And I can't leave out the one that is specific to HBCUs. Rebecca Ratcliffe is the CEO and founder of HBCU Impact. And there's opportunity there as well for students to access resources to get licensing and to get some support and education and mentoring on their path to getting into this industry, or folks on their path to pivoting into this industry. So those are some viable resources to look for funding, to pivot, or to start a career.
Yeah. Elle, you're such a wealth of knowledge because it's important, even if you don't have an GRC background or no connections, or you're just interested, those resources will get you started, right? It'll start to open up the door, peel back the layers to figure out exactly what you're looking for. And to Elle's point, listen, figure out what you like to do. If you like sewing, I am sure if there's some way, there is some type of compliance in either making the needles or the threads or the fabrics or,
Right.
textile or
The sewing
manufacturing.
machines.
Yeah, exactly. There's some form of regulations around it, right? And so this is a field that is transferable. This is a field that has the ability to really find a job that you enjoy. Like I love my
Right,
career.
right.
My job is stressful, but I absolutely love what I do. And at the end of the day, it could not have been a better marriage between compliance and the technology. So find compliance or risk management, for Elle, it's risk management insurance. So that's her coupling, and she enjoys it. She has the passion for it. And like myself, we're going to give it back to the community. And she's doing such a great job with the colleges and with independent students and in professional environments where she is always giving that sense of balance between culture and emotional intelligence, relational intelligence around the space. So Elle, I know we're at our time, but I wanted to, before I let you go, where can people find you? How can they connect, get into conversation with you, build community with you? Let the people know where they can find
I am very
Intelligent Intentions.
accessible. LinkedIn is my favorite online platform, so that's where to find me. The way my name is right here, um, underneath my face, is where you can find me. Lawanda Elle Michell Hall is written all out just like that on LinkedIn. I'm the only one with all of that written in there. There are lots of Lawanda Halls, but if you put Elle Michelle in there, you'll find me. And I'm very responsive to LinkedIn connections and requests and messages that I get, particularly from students, from everybody, but especially from students, because I just feel I have a heart for students, and I want to make sure that they're not, just putting information out there in a black hole. And I would ask other professionals, when students reach out to you, please, please, please make every effort to respond to them. So LinkedIn is the best way to find me, like Lawanda Elle Michelle Hall. Yeah.
Absolutely. So make sure at the end of this episode, you check out the show notes. We'll have all the links and all the places that Lawanda Elle Michell Hall has shared with us today. It is important that we connect and stay connected. So Elle, thank you so much for being here, for dropping so many bits of nuggets and wisdoms to my community. This conversation is exactly what the show is about. And so to the listeners, if this conversation resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. A student, a career changer, a colleague who keeps saying they want to do something different, right? This is the kind of content that actually change direction. Remember that new episodes drop every Wednesday. You can find me, my GRC POV, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. But if you have not subscribed yet, I don't know why, because we just had a fantastic conversation. Do it right now. Leave a review if this show has been a value to you. and so that it can help other people find this content. And make sure you follow us on LinkedIn and all the platforms at MyGRCPOV. And make sure that you know that we are here in season 2, and that's because of you guys. So make sure you own the risk, execute with intent. This is My GRC POV. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening to My GRC POV. Remember, all opinions expressed today are personal views only and don't reflect any organizational positions. Until next time, stay compliant and keep questioning.